For everyone watching, I am answering questions that were submitted to me by the magazine. But I'm answering them for the magazine, but also for everyone on Learning Edge's database, every one of their clients and subscribers, as a way of Jay Abraham opening up and trying to reveal myself more humanly, more realistically, more reachably to you, so you'll feel very good about sharing 3 or 4 or 5 days of your life and a small amount of your capital with Learning Edge to spend time with me. So bear with me as I look at the list, because I want to answer the questions. They want to know, what is the most difficult time I've had in the past? What did I struggle with, and what was the difficulty? Well, I'm paid on results more often than not. I'm paid for solving unsolvable problems. I'm paid for identifying issues people haven't ever identified that are constraining, impeding, restricting them. I'm paid for untangling Gordian knots. So my life has been a continuum of difficult challenges, because people don't bring me in when everything is good. They typically bring me in when everything is a nightmare. It's exploding. Cash flow's not coming. So probably I've had clients who were in the gold business back in the 80s, and gold got up to $800, and then it imploded and went down to $300, and my client got stuck losing $25 million in a week, and they had no cash. I had to figure out how to take all their clients and get them to buy something else. I had to figure out what else they could do with this entire database. I had to figure out how they could stay in business. I had to negotiate with all their vendors. That was pretty difficult. The first job I had when I was only 18, I had just gotten married. We had saved every dime we had. We moved into our first apartment. The day I moved in, I got fired, and I had one car that my pregnant wife had. I was taking 3 buses to get to work, and I got fired from my very low-paying job because I was having trouble focusing. I was young, excuse the airplane, flying overhead, and I didn't know what to do. And I was terrified, decimated. That was pretty bad. One time I was making $312 a month, and our apartment and expenses were about $300, and we had our first child, and I went out to put the baby in the car seat in the car, and someone stole the car seat, and I couldn't afford a new one. That was pretty bad. I had a time when I owned a car, and I lived in the Midwest where it got very cold. I know there are parts of Japan that get very cold. We would get 41 below sometimes, wind chill factor, very cold. And I had a car that had a broken heater, and I couldn't afford to fix it. And it had a broken defroster too. So it's fortunately, when gasoline was only 25 cents a gallon, I would sit for an hour and a half letting the air blow on the iced up window to defrost it because I couldn't afford to fix it. That was pretty bad. Want to hear some more? I had a client in Texas I worked for half a year, and they promised me huge commissions and ownership in their business, and they asked me to put expenses on my credit card and they would reimburse me. And I was young, and I just bought a house to work for them in Texas, and they went broke owing me back then about $15,000 on my credit card. And I went to a restaurant and they tore up my credit card, and I was embarrassed because I was trying to take someone to lunch and didn't know they were out of business, and I couldn't afford my mortgage payments, and I had to drive 3 hours every day to work at my other job that I was able to get so I could pay all the debt that I had. And I've had some very interesting experiences, but adversity and And trauma and crisis make you stronger. Most people don't even know. Well, I mean, you would certainly because of the tsunami and the horrific things that have happened. But it can be very bad. I had one time when I was making a lot of money that I decided to do a promotion at the end of our fiscal year, right before year end, and I had made $6 million that year, and I did something where I sent 7 million letters out in 1 month, and it was a strategy to ethically and legally avoid taxes. We called it a rollover. You move your income to the next year. But it was all based on selling investment newsletters. It was right when the stock market collapsed, and I lost $3.5 million in two months. That was pretty painful. I mean, I can go on, but the point is, I didn't learn my skill by not really experiencing defeat, setbacks. That I learned it by having to transcend it. So when you deal with me, you're going to learn from someone who's been there and done that in ways you can't believe. I've had to come in and save businesses that were in ruin. I've had to come in and help people who were in industries that exploded to stay in business. I've had to come in with people when they had to change their marketing because what they were doing was determined to be inappropriate because of their regulatory commissions. I've had to come in and help people when their top salesperson quit and took all the business to a competitor. I've had to come in when the owner died and the widow didn't have a clue how to run the business. I mean, I could literally list hours of really amazing difficulties I've had to overcome, circumnavigate, embrace, work through in my personal life, my marital life. When I first got married, I had 2 kids. One of them got pneumonia and mono, and I had no insurance. I had to work 3 full-time jobs to pay the insurance. When I was very recently married, one of my sibling, I only had one, he bought a really muscle car, we called it, and he came over and wanted to show it to me, and he asked me to drive it for him, and I pushed the accelerator down, and he didn't have oil in it, and it blew the engine, and it needed a $4,000 new engine, and I didn't have any money, and I had to take a bank loan because I didn't want my parents to know about it because they would have killed him. I can go on, but yeah, I've been through a lot of adversity. I'm the real thing. And I'm not saying it to be rude. I'm saying if you don't want to trust someone who's theoretical. There are a lot of people teaching you business or sales or marketing or advertising success who have really never done it. It's very theoretical. Trust me when I say it. And if you want to spend 2 days with me listing every adversity and every ecstasy that I've achieved, I can do it. But hopefully that gives you a little insight. Excuse the airplane, we're by an airport. The insight into who I am, that I'm totally real, and that I'm someone who can appreciate, respect, truly empathize, and contribute monumentally to you because I really understand the human condition and the business condition. So that's the first question. The second, what brought me to the field of marketing? Totally accidental, but very interesting. So I was married very young. I didn't go to college, and I'm really regretful of that. Pardon my voice. I had the need of somebody 40 when I was 20 because I had 2 kids. Nobody cared. The only jobs I could get on salary were nominal, menial, low paying. But a lot of entrepreneurs found me very interesting, and they would give me a desk in their office and allow me to work a little bit or a lot strictly on performance. I'd get commission or profit share or so much for every new account or so much for every lead. And when you only get paid when you perform, when you only earn and eat when something works, you learn very quickly what works and what doesn't. So I accidentally did that, and I was bored very easily, so I changed industries often. And every time I changed industries, I would be amazed at how one industry operated totally different than the others that I had been in. Not better, just different. They had different strategies. They had different ways of thinking. They had different ways of attracting their market. They had different revenue, profit, sales models. And I realized that they didn't necessarily have better ones or higher ones or more optimal ones. They just did what everybody did. After a while, I was able to start applying what I'd learned in multiple other industries to whatever industry I was in as an employee or as a performance-based contractor, and the companies skyrocketed. One went from 800,000 to 7 million in a few months. One went from 300,000 to 500 million in 18 months. One went from 20,000 to 13 million in 15 months. And I realized that I possessed an understanding of how to funnel, integrate, adapt, adopt, combine understandings from all kinds of outside markets, industries, worlds, and share them with people in industries that were very insular. And that's when I made the decision. Hopefully that helps. Next question. What brought you to the work you're doing now? It's a little different than marketing. When I started doing marketing, I got paid salary and then I got paid fees. And I learned, I was very fortunate. I've been blessed in my life to be exposed to a multitude of different people and businesses. I got to work with the world's largest, let me stop. First, I got to work with the Deming organization. Everyone in Japan knows Deming, process improvement, optimization. But when you think of Deming, you think of manufacturing. I was able to learn how to take the Deming principles and apply it to revenue generation, to sales, to marketing. Nobody else had done that. So that intrigued me because I was able to identify 20, 30, 50 different processes or performance impact points in a business that no one else had ever looked at. Excuse the airplanes. It's a Friday night as I'm doing this, and Friday nights in a private airport are the time that all the doctors and all the entrepreneurs take off for the weekend, so we'll probably hear airplanes continuously. What can I say? That's neat. I'm real. I'm not trying to be all perfect in a studio. The next thing is I got to work with the world's largest multi-variable testing organization. You don't even know what that means. It's an organization that works with large corporations that pay them $1 million an engagement to look at all the variation in what they do. The different ways different salespeople perform, the different ways manufacturing performs, the different ways different customer service people perform, the different ways that retail merchandising performs, the different way that signage performs, the different ways that advertising performs. And I got to look at almost another airplane. It's probably going to happen continuously. Hilarious. I got to look at literally hundreds of millions of dollars of research. It showed me how much more was possible. The differential between doing it one way and the other. How combining different elements or activities together can double or redouble the result, and how doing it the opposite can depress your result. Then I read a book called Reality in Advertising by the former chairman of J. Walter Thompson, the big advertising agency. It taught how different ways of doing things, different ways of approaching things, different ways of saying things, different ways of positioning things either dramatically increased the result or dramatically suppressed the result. Then I got the chance to work with the world's leading, largest legal, strategic, litigation consulting firm. They would work with law firms around the world working on $50, $100 million, billion-dollar cases, and I got to look at the research that 150 different PhD psychologists and sociologists had done, learning all the different ways that people think about something, react to something, respond to something. And as I'm doing all this, separately, I've been involved in 50,000 different experiments, advertising tests, tests of different sales presentation, tests of different ways of receiving calls, tests of different ways of calling people from a call center, tests of different ways to merchandise things. When all of that sort of combined and converged, it showed me, why charge people a fee when you can be included in the performance improvement or the enhanced result that you can get a business to generate, but in even a more granular way. What if you could take 30 different elements of a business that the business owner didn't even realize were underperforming, and what if you could help make half of them, a third of them, two-thirds of them each perform 10 or 30 or 50% better? And I started doing that, and I was very successful. And instead of making $5,000 for an engagement, I would make $500,000. And the companies would pay me $500,000 because I indirectly paid them $5 million. I would get a share of what I made them, a small share. They'd get a large share. And when I was done, they would keep using what I'd done for them and what I discovered for them. So that's how I got into that. Might sound confusing, but it's an interesting story. Did I have any difficulty building my brand? Of course. Do you think anybody has it easy building their brand? Do you think that everybody just sort of wakes up one day and is an absolute overnight success? I had to earn it step by step. When I wanted people to endorse me, I had to first go out and work for them free. I had to prove it by doing things for them, and they had to see results. I had to take on jobs where I only got paid success fees after I performed. I had to be mercilessly and ruthlessly interviewed by people with all kinds of challenge and show them that I was real. I had to travel all over the world. I've been divorced twice. I don't wish that upon anybody. I've had to struggle. I've been broke 3 times when clients who owed me a lot of money couldn't pay me. Yeah, it's not been easy, but it's always been difficult. But if you're real and genuine, and what your foundation is enduring and sustaining and powerful, you transcend all that, and you grow and you multiply geometrically every time. Next question. What did I do or experience until I reached the level of succeeding as a consultant? Simple. I went through 5 different jobs that I tremendously excelled at, where everyone noticed me. I was head of marketing and strategic alliances for a startup, and we grew it literally, 70,000%, 70,000 in 15 months, and everyone noticed that I was the cause, the factor. I was involved with the Entrepreneur magazine. We grew it 900% in a few months, and everyone noticed that I was the factor. I was involved with an investment firm, and we grew it 150 times, not 150%, 150 times in 18 months, and everyone realized I was the factor. After doing that enough times, guess what? I had enough credibility, enough documented track record, enough ability to easily converse with somebody at a deep enough and profound enough level that they could see that I knew what I was talking about, and enough willingness and confidence in myself and in them, if I felt good about it, to strike a mostly performance-based relationship. That's when I shifted. Another airplane. Oh my goodness, it's going to be all night airplanes. What was the last question? what was the turning point of failure to success? It happened with two turning points. Three. One was in 1976, when I realized that being paid for time, you could never make any money. You had to leverage or get scaled performance yield out of your effort, your time, your knowledge, your resources, your capital, your intellectual capital. Then I shifted my model and started working only with companies that had all kinds of resources and activities in motion and commerce going on, critical mass, velocity, momentum, where I could take advantage of all that. They might have had 100 salespeople, 1,000 advertisements, 10,000 prospects every month, and I could make all of those activities produce greater yield while I was talking to somebody else, because I knew how to get paid for result, not time. The next was in a little later, when I met and paid to have a day with one of the greatest marketing minds alive then, and he taught me marginal net worth, lifetime value, allowable cost, and that shifted my whole perspective, because I realized that you don't have a budget. You have unlimited budget if you understand the relationship, the correlation between a prospect, a first-time buyer, a repeat buyer, and if you understand all the different ways you can increase the monetization. The next level of growth was when I learned preeminence, and that exploded me, because I learned how not just to grow by sheer marketing might, but to leverage it many times over geometrically by letting the power of greatness and the power of preeminence, another airplane, and preemptiveness dominate everything. Finally, and probably more interestingly, in the last couple of months, I've grown another dimension, because I've learned to understand what greatness really is and how greatness can be harnessed for everyone. Separately, I learned the concept of having masterful thinking partners, not a partner, but partners, all kinds of far brighter and more experienced and worldly or specialized people who were able to condense and share their understanding with me, with you, and channel it into what I was doing. So that's when I grew. I hope that does two things. Satoshi, I hope it's a good answer for your magazine, but certainly I hope it's something you can use on your website, either completely or in parts, to demonstrate to everyone you're trying to reach on your list, everyone you're trying to reach on your partner's list, that I really am real, that I've been there and done that. I'm not theoretical. I'm not like 90% of the people that try to sell things to them. I'm coming to Tokyo to share what I've experienced. What I know is not the same as what I've experienced. Knowledge, if it's theoretical, is dangerous. Wisdom that is experiential is priceless. Thank you.